as we will.
What's up, fellas? Good to see you back for another episode of the Blind Pig, courtesy of BGObsession.com. Quick with the intros, and then we'll just step into that pile of poo. Top left is Neophyte. His real name is Bob.
Thanks, man.
Bottom left is John. You can find him as Boone. Bottom right is Paul. He hails as Canadian Hog. Top right is me. My name is Derek, and I hail as Silent Threat. So, without further ado, I guess we can jump. I will ask a question before we get into that. And it's kind of related, and there's going to be a segue into it. But Monday night, Taylor Heineke was on tape, on video at the Caps game, chugging a beer, appearing to enjoy himself. And apparently now there are people that feel that it's unacceptable, that he needs to be sulking the same level of sulk that we have. I'm curious to hear you guys react. I'll leave it to the floor, and then I'll respond at the end.
It's dumb. I mean, it's dumb fan stuff. You know, these guys work their ass off. They don't get much downtime in season. I don't know. He could probably, if I were him, I would just probably not let people videotape me, whether I'm on the team plane or at out, public events, pounding the Bud Light, because he just opens himself up to it. But it's kind of a stupid fan thing to complain, that if it wasn't for that one Bud Light, we might have a chance against San Francisco. I don't know.
Yeah.
Apparently it was planned too. It was planned, some kind of a planned celebration, related to Ovi's celebration. So anyway, that's what I think.
Yeah, I'm with John. These guys, they're just like the rest of us. And I don't sit around at night mad about stuff that happened at work. It's not good for my health. Right. It's not good for anybody's health. You got to go do something else. And I feel fairly certain he spent plenty of time in Ashburn Monday, staring at tape, doing whatever it is they do on recovery day. I don't know if they had Tuesday off this week because it's a short week for the team, but typically Tuesday's the off day for the team. And my guess is he had those tickets to the Caps game for a couple of weeks minimum, right? This was the plan for a while. And so, yeah, I don't, I'm non-story. Go have a good time, get it off your mind, get yourself right to play San Francisco. And if going to a Caps game helps, go to a Caps game, drink a beer.
We got to get him on some decent beer though, Bob, man. The Bud Light thing, that's just, that doesn't reflect well.
Yeah. I don't know what's available at Caps games though. So, I mean, that might be the best of what he had options for, John.
I agree with both of you. That said as well, I think it only becomes a little bit of a story because of the timing of it all. If, this happened in, let's say, the end of September, after a tough loss, I don't think anybody would be, hooting and hollering about it. But the fact that here we are late season with a real opportunity to get into the playoffs and, arguably dropping the most important game of the season, that's going to naturally put people up in arms about it. There's no issue with it with me personally, but I'm just trying to, possibly explain as to why people would be so upset about it. Now, provided they come out on Saturday, I was going to say Sunday, but provided they come out on Saturday and, look prepared and look the part of a professional football team, it's a non-issue, like the two of you have said.
Yeah, just to put a bow on it, I agree with all of you guys. I think I think fans sometimes forget that these guys are human, and they forget that that's a job, and they also forget that we live and die 6 days a week for production on Sunday, but those guys are grinding those 6 days a week for that production on Sunday. So, their work week isn't 3 hours and then the rest of it's voluntary. They're busting their ass. He's probably working as hard or harder than anybody on that team. And the only two people I would even probably put into that conversation might be Allen and McLaurin, just because you can tell they're grinders, plus some other guys like Reeves and others. But The guy was out. It's a Monday night. It's their day off. They don't even put the installation into the offense until Wednesday anyway, even on a short week. And I would venture to guess that he got approached by the Capitals weeks ago, as well as numerous other guys on the team. And they said, "Hey guys, why don't you come out? We'll put you in a box. We'll hook you up with some swag. You guys pick a jersey you want. And all we ask of you is that, you let us film you in the middle of the third period for, to try to rile the crowd up a little bit, and
Yeah.
so we don't know. We saw a 9-second clip. That could have been the only 9 seconds he wasn't sitting there with his hand on his head because he was asked by the team to be a hype man,
Yeah.
So it's a non-story in my opinion. In fact, I'm almost happy to see it because,
Yeah.
the last thing I want him doing is overanalyzing every throw and then going into this game scared. Like you have to have a work-life balance and you have to be able to step away and you have to be, he's got to be happy. He is not going to produce if he's not happy. And that goes for anybody on that team. This isn't the Love Boat in Minnesota or, with Smoot and the guys that were out and partying and then they were late to practice. No, it's a non-story in my opinion. So I agree with you guys wholeheartedly.
So you mentioned Allen and McLaurin, and I don't know if you guys caught it before you came on, but they just announced the Pro Bowl selections for 2022.
I did.
We have 3 starters, Allen, McLaurin, and I'm really happy. Excuse me, Allen, Tressway, and Jeremy Reeves is a starter on special teams. And then McLaurin got his first Pro Bowl nod, which is kind of sad. If we ever get a quarterback in here, he'll be a perennial starting Pro Bowler probably. But anyway, that was exciting. I think that's the most we've had. The first time we've had 3 starters named since like 2004 or something like that. 2002. Yeah, it's been a while.
Jeez.
So anyway, that's good. That's good stuff. All those guys are deserving. We haven't talked about Jeremy Reeves a lot this year, so I feel kind of bad about that.
And the really cool thing about our Pro Bowl selections as well is it covers all 3 facets of the game. We got some special teamers in there. We got a defensive starter. We got an offensive starter. When I read that today and when I saw that today, it just reminded me about, how close we are to being a complete team. There's obviously that missing piece at quarterback. And I mean, this team can certainly go places, but obviously we need to fill that need tremendously.
Yeah.
I think if Deron Payne were on another team, he'd be on the Pro Bowl as well. I think they don't want to put 2, D linemen from the same team in the Pro Bowl, but just.
Well, I want to say he was marked as a reserve.
Well, I gotta say, who's the other starter? I mean, if it's Aaron Donald, then you know what happened, and he's gonna make the Pro Bowl regardless, right? I mean, just off reputation, he hasn't had a great year.
Well, and he's now gonna have he now missed his first game ever due to injury. I don't think they IR'd him, but that could have changed.
The sad part is I think you can make legitimate arguments for a couple of more guys to be starters. Cam Curl may very well be the best starting safety in the NFC right now. And the fact that he's not a starter, I think, is almost criminal.
Trying to find the stupid tweet.
Yeah, I think
we had 2 or 3 offensive linemen that
here we go.
Be cut.
Starters Allen, Way, and Reeves. Reserve McLaurin, and then also Payne is a first alternate, and Montez Sweat is a second alternate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Interesting. Sweat.
So if whoever I'm gonna, while we're talking, I'm gonna try to find out who the other starters are. But could you imagine if 3 guys were to decide they're not gonna play, and then the Pro Bowl defensive line is Sweat, Payne, and Allen? Now, obviously, they're not playing a game, but 3/4 of the D line that's represented is for the NFC and the Pro Bowl is our D line. Bruh, that's crazy to think about.
All right,
anyways,
let's get to it, man. We had heartbreak and suffering last Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember.
Sunday. If I can just jump on this thing real quick. In the moment I was pissed off. I was shocked. I was mad. But the more you think about it, at least me myself, the more I think about it, this game was no different than the last 7 games. The bounces just didn't go our way this time. We didn't recover the fumble, in the red zone.
Which one? We had 4 of them.
Right. We
only
didn't get
We only recovered half of them.
we didn't get the call in the end zone. We didn't, for 7 weeks we've been playing, other than the game against Houston, just on a razor thin edge where you can't afford to make mistakes. That we lost 2.
No,
Yeah,
we
we
only
had-
had 2.
Heineke fumbled twice, both of which were lost. Gibson fumbled and recovered it, and our all-star Mr. Robinson Jr. fumbled and recovered it, or somebody.
Well, the 2 by the running backs were not recorded officially as fumbles. They are not in the official stats. The only thing in the official stats are the 2 Heineke lost.
Right.
So,
But we have been playing this game for 7 weeks, and 6 of the 7 weeks we ended up getting the bounces, and we just ran out of gas, I think. This game, I think, was winnable. I don't know if you guys agree with me. There was a lot left on the field, at least from looking back at tape. Bob, you mentioned that you've looked at more tape on this game than you have in a while.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like we left at least 17 points on the field.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. And most of the tape, I actually, all of the tape that I've looked at this week was offensive, because I was just trying to figure some stuff out. And I want to kind of start at the beginning. And I know there's a lot of people that are really upset with that Taylor Heineke fumble, Thibodeau recovery in the end zone, and mad at Taylor. I'm mad about the play call. And I know that I probably sound like a broken record, but I'm sitting there watching that play over and over again today. And I guess I watched it for about the 4th time, and it finally hit me. I was looking at 5 offensive linemen, nobody in tight, Taylor operating in an empty backfield from what, his 10-yard line, 7-yard line,
Out of shotgun too, right?
out
Was
of
it-
the shotgun. Yeah. I mean, he's almost standing on the end zone to begin with. No running back in the backfield. So immediately the defense knows it's going to be a pass. You have no tight end in to help Leno, or was it Cosme or was it Lucas on the other side the other night?
I believe it was Lucas. Cosme played inside, but I might be mixing that up with the
I may,
first
yeah,
Giants
I
game.
may be too. We're moving our offensive linemen around like Lego. But I just stared at that and I thought, what the hell were we thinking inside our own 10-yard line, running an empty backfield set and sending 5 guys into the pattern? I mean, there wasn't even anybody into chip. And it's not like Heineke held the ball. Granted, he probably could have gotten rid of it a little quicker. He's got some skin in this game too. I think, and none of the views I've been able to see, I think Gibson was open on the far sideline. And that's who he was looking at. And I think that's where he was winding up to go. But I don't understand that play call at that place in the field. You want to do that on the 50-yard line? Okay, I get it. But there? No.
Yeah, that's a rush Robinson 3 times in punt.
Yes.
Part of the field. I think you're 100% right on that. This was one of the, I know you guys have beat on Scott. Well, I beat on Scott Turner as well, but not as joyously as you guys have over the course of the year. But it just felt like, I don't know what the hell the game plan was, but it didn't seem, it was the polar opposite of the Philly win, where it looked like we just knew how to defeat them and went about doing it. First of all, we owned the first quarter. The Giants only had the ball for 3 minutes and 41 seconds of the first quarter, and we came out of that quarter with a whopping 3 points.
You want to hear the scary part of that?
And we also punted from the Giants 34 for a 4-yard net.
You bring that up. They held the ball for 3 minutes and 41 seconds in that first quarter. 3:01 was the last 3:01. They showed a graphic where we had the ball for 11 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yep.
and they had it for 40 seconds.
Yeah.
And I mean, so that's another slow start. And I know you're going to say it, so I'll just go ahead and preempt you. What in God's name, you've got Robinson averaging 7 yards a carry, more than 7 yards a carry. And you just decide in the second half, well, we don't know. I mean, it's not like we were down 21 points, for God's sake. Why did he abandon the run? And I've heard every pundit and any idiot fan can seize on that and say why. But I mean, that if it's so obvious, why you have to wonder, where is Rivera? I get that Scott Turner has his reasons. I'm sure he does have, if he was here to explain why he did what he did, I'm sure he could intelligently explain it in his own mindset. But at some point, the head coach has to say, look, run the damn ball. That's how we're going to win this game. And then on the other side of it, even though the defense, and people are right, the defense held them to 13 points. That's a pretty good effort on any Sunday in the NFL. But Daniel Jones, that's a little misleading because Daniel Jones ate us alive with the dink and dunk passing. And he did not beat us with his feet, but I almost feel like we spent so much time preventing him from getting out of the pocket that we didn't put pressure on Daniel Jones at all. We didn't sack him once. In fact, Taylor Heineke's the one that was getting sacked, not Daniel Jones. And that's, with our D-line, that's just not acceptable. You've got to get in there. And that's the way that you get to Daniel Jones, is you put him in the dirt, you rough him up. He's going to get some scrambles regardless, but I don't know how else to explain how we did not get pressure on him. The only other explanation is they just kicked our ass at the line of scrimmage.
We had no sacks, and we had one tackle for a loss. When was the last game our defense had no sacks and one tackle for a loss?
In the most important game of the season against an opponent that everyone in the NFL would probably agree we have more talent than.
Look, I'm sorry, guys. I got to interrupt you. Who cares? Like, to put it lightly, all that matters is we gave up 13 flipping points. If you hold a team to 13 points in the NFL, you should win a football game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The defense did their job. They didn't sack him. Yes, they had 0 tackles for loss. But at the same time, you're right. They were dedicated. On this podcast 2 weeks ago, we said, you stack the line, you don't move if you don't get clean penetration, you maintain your gaps. So you know what? They did it. And they didn't get themselves rushed out of position. Saquon Barkley didn't beat you. You gave up.
You're not wrong, Derek. And but you're not wrong. Here's, you know what's funny? I mean, I did the math. I think if we fix the officiating calls that everybody and their mother's been screaming about for 3 days now, the Redskins win the game. Washington wins the game 21-20, just off blown calls. The 2-point conversion should have stood. Robinson's touchdown should have stood. There's your 8 points right there. Now it's a tie ball game. You bring Joey Sly in for the touchdown or for the extra point after the touchdown.
Wow, yeah.
And it's 21-20, right? And that's just off 2 blown calls. And we all know there were more than 2. And I'm not even talking about the ones that didn't get called. Oh my gosh, Jamin Davis got positively molested about 4 times. A bear hugged and just shut down. It wasn't even a pretense of blocking. It was absolutely, he wasn't holding, it was cuddling. It was like, I'm sorry.
Come on, Bob. Tell us what you thought, man.
Well, I'm just,
Paul.
Oh yeah, go for it, Paul. Please shut me down.
No, I'm right there with you, Bob. I feel everything you guys are saying, but I don't know. Like, I watched this game, I sat there, and the fact is, when it was time to make a play in this game, we didn't. You go back to the 4th and 9. Like, I was ready to turn my TV off at 4th and 9. I sat through the rest of that game after they converted that. And I sat there basically feeling numb. Like, I knew how the game was going to transpire after that point. At the most critical moments in the ball game, we just fell flat on our face. Even when you think back to, I mean, it was a minor point, but when you think back to New York's final offensive drive in the game, where they were able to tack on another 3 points, Saquon Barkley was gashing us for 10+ yard runs, I believe, on 3 occasions. So when it was time to step up, time and time again, we failed on Sunday. And I don't know what you attribute that to, if it's a lack of preparation, if it's an inability to rise up to the occasion in the big moments. I don't know what it is, but we couldn't produce when we needed to. And to me, that reflects who this team has been so often in the past. And that's a really concerning and frustrating point for me. You know, at some point you have to be able to prove that you can turn a corner, and it just seems like we're spinning our tires, you know?
Well, you have to stay around the corner, right? I mean, I feel like we've proven we can turn the corner multiple times in the last 4 or 5 weeks, but once you turn the corner, you have to actually stay around the corner. And we turn the corner and we stay there for 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 games, whatever you want to call it. And then we take that step back around the corner like, oh, I'm not sure we're supposed to be here. So we're going to go back where we belong. And it just, because the talent's there. The plays were there to be made.
But this kind of goes back to my original points. This is the game that we have played. They have been, well, let me rephrase that, because the offensive scheme was different. For 6 of these 8 games, there's been max protect. There's been 2 tight ends on the field. There's been a chipping line, but for some reason we got away from it. But largely, this has been the template of this. The defense will keep you close. The offense, you just hope the offense can do just enough to win the game. And we didn't do just enough to win the game. We had some help not doing just enough, but we clearly didn't do just enough. Look, and unfortunately, Bob, if you said you looked at the tape, I went back, I saw 3 or 4 plays where we had wide receivers running open for walk-in touchdowns. And there was either not enough time in the pocket, which tells me Scott Turner's out of touch, because you cannot be scheming up plays that are that long developing and then be like, well, look, my offense creates openings. Yeah, but your quarterback doesn't have to have the time to get rid of the damn football. There's another play to Curtis Samuel along the right sideline where Curtis Samuel has to make an absolutely acrobatic catch and did his toe taps. He is 6 yards in front of the defensive back. Almost any NFL arm is able to hit him walking into a touchdown.
Yeah, if that ball's down, he's, yeah. I mean, it was a great play, but it could have been so much better. Yeah.
Throw it down the numbers with some velocity, and he walks into the end zone. I'm sorry. This is where we are this year. We are paper thin. Sorry, the defense is going to hopefully keep the other team under 20. We would have had we not given up a sack, fumble for a touchdown. And you just hope you can score 20 and win the football game.
Well, we're going to Taylor Heineke our way right out of the playoffs. I hate to say it because, and I'm not saying, and I know, yeah, I don't say it on Twitter because I watch other people say it and get pummeled. You know, whether it's Wentz or whether it's Hal, just change something, man. I mean, yeah. Do we know that Wentz would be any better? He might be worse. Yeah, he might be. But you know what? We know what Taylor's doing, and he's been doing it, and nothing. And I just want to say, we're going up against the #1 defense in the league. What do you think is going to change with Taylor? I don't. And I mean, that's just my opinion. At some point, you have to reach a point where you're like, you know what? The guys deserve a chance to win. I mean, first of all, my God, what kind of an indictment is it on Ron Rivera if it only took 5 games to turn Wentz from a guy you want to pay $28 million to and give up picks to, I don't trust you to come in as the backup when my primary is not getting the job done. I mean, at some point, I'm telling you right now, I have almost no doubt that we win that game if Carson Wentz plays, because he can hit open receivers. I feel that way, man. Maybe a lot of people.
If we run the same game,
and I'm not a Wentz fan. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and Derek, go, Derek. You're going to say what I'm going to say.
If we run the system we've run for the last 6 weeks, with Wentz. Yes, I agree. If we run the system we ran the first 5 weeks, we probably lose worse. That's what's the most infuriating thing is we might have a better option. First off, we do have a better option. Heineke could be better if the offense was different, in my opinion. I think we're still leaving points on the. Now that doesn't mean Heineke's
I don't think
going to be
I think he's
going to be scoring
don't-
30. I
Dude,
don't think he's.
Yeah, don't shake your head about it. So go back and watch that first drive after halftime. Every single ball in the air was a play action ball. And the Giants bit on play action every single time. Terry McLaurin was wide open, half of those. And when he wasn't, he still got the football. And guess what? When he was totally covered up, what did we do? We rolled Taylor out of the pocket and hit a wide open Jahan Dotson. That was oh my gosh. If that's the only thing Scott Turner sends me as an applicant for my position as offensive coordinator, I'm hiring him. That was a brilliant set of plays.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Correct. I didn't say. I'm not saying they
no,
were.
I'm just saying Scott Turner can suck and make mind-numbingly bizarre decisions on play calling, and Heineke can be not an NFL starter who can't hit wide open receivers.
Look, I agree.
Over and over.
I
So it's not
agree
either
completely.
or. Both of those can be true at the same time.
The point I was making, I think this offense can be better currently with a better offensive scheme. I think it can be that much better with a better offensive scheme and a better better production at the quarterback. Heineke is not the guy. And if anybody wants to sit here and argue that Heineke can be a long-term starter in the NFL, I don't know what to tell you because we've seen it for 22 freaking games. We've seen it. We've seen the worst rated offense in the league.
He's a sub 60% completion guy, like consistently. I know on
the sad thing is he probably gets 4 or 5 percentage points from 50-50 balls where his receiver makes the catch, not the other way around.
It is what it is, right?
And I'm not trying to pile. Believe me.
No, it's all good, man. We're just all frustrated. I do think
not
though,
coming down. It's going to be there forever. I love the guy, but
I do think that it had the feel of like the old way we lose. You know what I'm saying? The big game, we all get hyped up again, and then we get disappointed. And I don't know if you've heard the Sam Kinison bit where he talks about love, there's love, there's the door, and love's behind it. Love's talking to him, and he's like, come on, Sam, open the door. It's love. It's love. Open the door. I wouldn't lie to you 3 fucking times in a row. Open the door. And then he opens the door, and it's like, love me again. That's what it feels like. And I mean, I'm telling you, for guys to not watch the second half who are diehard lifelong fans, and I know some of those people, that is pathetic. And I know, I think Paul was in chat and he said, I just have to go, guys. I can't process this anymore in public. I have to go into a dark room somewhere and finish watching the game. But anyway, I don't think it's going to change until we have a quarterback and possibly a new offensive coordinator. Possibly.
Yeah, I think we'll win a couple of these. We very well may lose a couple of these. And then I think when we run into a real offense in the playoffs, it's not gonna be enjoyable.
So the playoffs, I just looked at. I mean, obviously, if we win out, we're in, right? If we win 2 of 3, and the only thing we would need to have happen if we win 2 of the next 3, which is not an easy given, but either Seattle or the Lions would have to lose a game of their last 3. So if we can win 2 and one of those teams doesn't sweep the remaining games, we're in. The Lions play the Panthers versus the Bears and at the Packers. Probably the Packers are.
We need both of them to not sweep.
Is that right?
Because right now we're already behind Dallas and New York. We're essentially 2 games behind New York because of the tiebreaker. So chances are we're not going to catch them. So it's the 3-way between Washington, Detroit, and Seattle fighting for that third third playoff spot.
Seattle plays at the Chiefs versus the Jets, who are still in it, and versus the Rams, who of course aren't in it, but can still put up a fight. So,
yeah, if we go 2-1 and they both go 2-1, we make it by half a game. If we go 2-1 and one of those go 3-0, then they're half a game ahead of us. Because we can't tie them unless one of them ties somebody, which would just be a perfect bow on it to lose on like a home points scored against like opponents bullshit or something that. Sorry.
And that's what my fear is at this point in the season, because I feel like we're teetering on that line where we're going to have to start depending on scoreboard watching. And when you're at this point in the season and you have to start depending on scoreboard watching, you are setting yourself up 9 times out of 10 for disappointment. We have to take care of our own business. And I don't know, the way this offense performs, I don't think that is a feasible possibility given the strength of opponents that we have to play in these last 3 weeks.
So before we talk about San Fran, I just want to say one other thing about the officiating in the Giants game. I did go back because the way I feel, and sometimes the way you feel when you actually look at the numbers it's not validated, it's just the way it feels. Because all fans think that officials have it out for their team, right? I think that's probably a kind of a universal thing. But we are 17th in penalties this year in terms of the most penalties called. So we're right
Pretty much middle of the pack.
Middle of the pack. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. I guess it doesn't tell the whole story, because really what's killed us a couple of times is in the biggest moments, we seem to get these mystery calls. And I will never forget that SOB who, with McLaurin, and I don't know what went down with the two of them, but he had his hand went in the pocket while they were still talking. He knew he was going to throw the flag.
That flag was coming out no matter what.
I will never understand that call. And then to follow it up with missing the obvious, pass interference call. It's just only Washington gets that kind of a call.
I think to the bigger point there, you said that we're 17th. Yeah, we're in the middle of the pack. But I think that's a bigger issue, because we're not the only ones that I've seen get just completely hosed by, like, it's getting to the point the referees are affecting the game almost too much.
Mike Florio spent 20 minutes on bad refereeing this weekend, and I'm not even sure that our game was the one he was the most upset about. I take that back. He said outright the call he was most upset about was actually the McLaurin call, because he felt like McLaurin checked in and there was communication between he and the referee. And so the flag then coming out after the fact was just almost like a complete betrayal of the code between wide receivers and line judges. And I haven't heard much what every wide receiver that I've seen interviewed. I mean, Collinsworth basically said it on the broadcast. I
haven't heard the NFL come out with anything this week as far as an apology, an explanation. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I haven't heard it.
No, I think it would have been all over Twitter, John.
The other thing I just want to go ahead. I'm sorry, Derek.
I haven't heard the NFL come out with an apology for probably the last 3 or 4 years.
No, I read something earlier this season about an apology went to a team over some officiating call, and I forget which team it was or which game or weekend, but
I don't want an apology. I want a fucking do-over, man. That would be the only fair thing.
But I just want it right, and I want it fair. As long as we get that, we have nothing to bitch about.
So you have to wonder, this is the last thing I'll say about it. Because, a lot of times we start talking, fans start talking, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but, they have cozied up, they have invited organized gambling into the NFL. They're part and parcel to it now. How are you going to stop? I'm not saying that guy had his neighbor, invest his mortgage on the Giants winning that game, but how would you ever know if he had? Right. And that's the kind of call that makes you wonder. It really does make you wonder, seriously, did this guy have a vested interest? Because I don't understand. I don't think anyone can explain why you would make that call in that situation. It's bad for the league. It's totally unfair to the players and the fans. I just don't get it. And so I don't know. I think I'll even say this. I think at some point there's going to be a scandal because some official it has his hand in the cookie jar and is manipulating the game. It's going to happen.
That was
And-
Florio's point. That was Florio's point. But to kind of back up a little bit, John, we did ourselves wrong in a whole bunch of different circumstances between us and the officials Sunday night. We kept doing the things that, to steal a page out of Derek's commentary from earlier, we haven't been doing for 6 weeks now. We were behind the sticks a lot Sunday night. We were stuck in 2nd and 10, 3rd and 12, where we really haven't been. That whole play with Thibodeau doesn't happen if Lucas doesn't hold on the play before that. He negated an 11-yard run by Robinson. No, by Gibson. Right. It was an 11-yard run and a first down because he had his hand outside the guy's shoulder pad. And it was, I mean, they went back and focused on him, and he did it from the beginning of the play. It's not like the guy suddenly shifted and was getting away from him. He was holding from the snap, and he was doing it on the outside where at least 2 receivers had 2 referees had a clear view of his hand. Every high school offensive lineman in the nation knows they're going to get flagged for holding if they do that. And yet a guy making $1 million a year does it without thinking about it.
I get it. And I agree with anyone that I agree with you and anyone that says, if you make the mistakes that end up putting it in the officials' hands, that's on you. But that doesn't change the fact that could have been a historic victory. We could have gotten that touchdown, gotten the 2-point conversion, taken it to overtime and won the game. It could have happened easily.
So question, because I had a thought during the game. There were moments I thought we were playing really well, but even in the moments I thought we were playing really well, I didn't feel like this team had a tremendous amount of intensity Sunday night. Was that just me?
Not at all.
I mean, even in our best moments, I thought, I'm not feeling a lot of emotion from this football team. I'm not feeling a lot of urgency from this football team. From the opening kickoff, it felt like a stroll in the park. Even when Robinson was running people over, it didn't really feel like we were completely in the game.
You're right when you say that, Bob. The one moment in the game where I felt like the intensity did get dialed up was that drive where we heavily involved McLaurin early in the second half. That was it. Beyond that, the team was flat. And that has characterized many, many important moments in Ron Rivera's tenure with this team. And the most important of moments, we are flat. We've talked about slow starts in the past. I mean, this game in many ways epitomized what the problem has been and what the issue has been in Washington for these past 3 seasons.
Yeah, I felt like the Giants had the better of us on both sides of the ball. I felt like they were more, it's just a sense I got that it was a bigger game for them than it was for us, which is obviously not true, but it felt that way.
Well, it was. They came in like it was a bigger game. They were on our turf. They came to our house. They were the ones with their backs against the wall because we came off a bye week after just playing them, and they just got their doors blown off by the Eagles, a team that we had beat earlier in the season. That's the difference between winning that game and losing that game. They were not going to take no for an answer. They got some help.
Well, they have no respect for us. That 4th and 9 play you guys were talking about, that was a fuck you.
Yeah,
we have no regard for you at any level call.
Yeah. And there was even a point, and I want to say it was in the 3rd quarter. Well, there were 2 things. Sorry. One, there was a point, I think it was in the second half, where we just legitimately went outside run to the right, outside run to the left, outside run to the right, outside run to the left. And you could see their defense breaking down every single time. I think it was Samuel ran to the right and he got 11 or 10. Robinson ran to the left. He got another 6 or 7. Then I think Gibson came in and ran to, and I'm like, this is how you beat this team. You get those big chunky interior linemen moving side to side. They have nobody to speak of as far as linebacker goes. They literally just called up Landon Collins. You know how to beat Landon Collins. Just go look at the last 2 years of tape that he has in wearing our color jersey. You know what I mean? So you're watching these flashes, and we stop doing it. Meanwhile, they look at it and they see some of the things that they're picking us apart, and then they capitalize on it, and then they start to major in that, and then we can't figure it out, specifically on defense. When I mean by their defense against our offense, there was a drive. There was I want to say it was 1 or 2 drives in the third quarter. We finally started getting pressure on Jones. We were in and around his feet. He started sailing. He was missing some easy throws, and it's like, you figured it out. This is how you beat this team. And then it's like, well, you know what? That's working. Let's find something else just in case they adjust to our adjustment. I'm so sick and tired of watching this team do that. Stop changing it until they prove you need to change it. It's freaking working. Keep working it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rant over.
And
Anyways.
we were raised on, that's the Gibbs mantra right there, and we were raised on that, right?
Yeah. You think it would be basic, simple shit. Look, 3 weeks ago, I'd have said that this is the game we're definitely going to lose. Since then, they've lost Jimmy Garoppolo and Deebo Samuel. They've also hung 35 on the Buccaneers, and then got into a dogfight with the Seahawks. But could this be the game? Brock Purdy turns back into a pumpkin at midnight.
It could be.
I mean, he is Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. You know what I mean? There's got to be a way to get to him to revert bad habits.
Maybe. Tom Brady was a 6th round draft pick for a reason too, and all he's done is set records since he got in the starting lineup.
Yeah, but not well.
It sounds like we're going to get Ben St. Juste back this week, so that's a big deal in terms of, you know, having our best corner out there. I just think, I mean, I said it last week, put him in the dirt, put intense pressure on him. He hasn't really been under intense pressure. He's played well. He's been sacked a total of 4 times, twice in each of the first 2 games. So I say we lay 6 on him and see how he does with 6 sacks. They don't have a lot of weaknesses. That's the problem. We just gotta, to me, it's the same thing I keep saying over and over. I don't have any insight. We have to have all 3 units show up at the same game and play well. We can't have missed extra points. We can't go into the red zone twice as we did against the Giants and exit with that. Nothing. We can't do that. NFL teams that do that lose games, and we just have to do better, man. And I know they're going to move the ball on us. They're going to run it on us. They're going to pass it on us. We just have to we just have to limit it as best we can, but we got to score in this game.
I don't think we see the same defense this week that we saw this last week. I think a lot of what happened to our defense this last week was Jack Del Rio looking at tape from 2 weeks ago and going, I cannot let Daniel Jones beat us. You know, the fact that we didn't get so much as a knockdown tells me that the defensive line was playing to contain him.
Right.
Because there's no way in the world we get 4 sacks and however many quarterback hurries 2 weeks ago, and their offensive line suddenly grow a spine in 2 weeks. You know, Deron Payne wasn't in the backfield at all.
Either. Yeah.
I don't think that's because Deron went, I'm taking a game off. And I don't see Jack coming out this next week and saying we have to contain Brock Purdy. I think we pin our ears back and go after him and play the run on the way to the quarterback.
The problem is what's between our guys and them and him is Trent Williams and some nasty MFers along that offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paul, I feel like I haven't let you.
Well, we might have to revisit that. What is it? The B word? I mean, there's these things that are called blitzes that other teams seem to do. I don't think I've seen one in about 6 weeks. I don't know.
I want
Maybe
to see
we have.
that corner blitz that we last saw Mr. St. Juice pull
Yes,
off.
I mean,
What was that, 4
am I
weeks
wrong?
ago?
It seems like it's been a while.
What do you think, Paul?
Well, the one thing that is crossing my mind in regards to this game is how our offense is going to respond. We all know about the strength of that defense, and if I had to bet, they will likely try to do their very, very best to shut down our run game and put this game on Taylor Heineke's shoulders. I'm really curious to know, or if our offensive scheme is going to be, let's go at them with our strength, or if we are going to try and mix it up and try to catch this defense off guard a bit. You know, do you stay true to who you are and just continue to run the ball and pound the ball, even if San Francisco shuts it down for great, you know, for the majority of the game? Or, you know, do you try to mix it up? I don't know. Do you trust Taylor Heineke to do that? It's a question that I've asked, but I don't know the answer to it.
Me personally, Geno Smith. Let me see. Now that you know what, I'm gonna pass it off and come back to me.
I think if Turner can get it through his thick skull that he has to run Robinson and periodically Gibson, and when he's not running them, he's got to act like he's running them. Taylor does better off the play action than he does when he just drops back. You know, his biggest plays this week all came off play action. Granted, at that point in time, we're gashing the Giants for 7, 9, 11, 15 yards at a pop. And so they had to pay attention to the run. I don't feel like we're going to gash the 49ers for that on a regular basis. We may get a couple of runs like that, but that's not going to be an all day kind of a thing. It's going to be three or 4 yards in a cloud of dust, but we have to take our 3 or 4 yards in a cloud of dust and then take our play action passing and do something with it. No, I think we've got to ignore the tight ends. I don't trust our tight ends.
I don't trust. Well, Cole Turner got.
I wouldn't even
activated.
have Logan Thomas out there. He's a detriment right now.
This
I hate
is
to say that, but I said it last week, and he went out and did the same damn things. Mental errors, can't block.
Well,
roughing
to that point, how many times did we see Logan Thomas get overthrown? Or it's a hand and a half out front, and he can't get to it. And I know a lot of people put that on Taylor, but you start to ask the question: is Logan Thomas, is he hampered? Can he not get the ups? Is he slow out of the break? You know what I mean? Like, is he not? Like, to John's point, is he literally becoming a hindrance as opposed to a weapon?
Is he physically 100%, or has he lost a step with that knee at this point in time? Yeah,
right. I would rather put Bates out there, even though I think he's not the gifts, but I'd still rather have him out there. So I think Taylor has got to have his best game of the year, and he's got to be Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, not Gary Busey coming off a Bud Light hangover. He has to play well. I don't think we can win this game if he doesn't play his best game of the year. I really don't. Because I think we will run it some, but I don't think we're going to have the kind of running. I mean, if we do, that's awesome. If we can run it 30 times and have the kind of production that we've been having, that's great. But I'm just not sure. I mean, it's the number 1 ranked rushing defense we're facing, and I don't know how well that's going to go. So Heineke, it's going to be a lot on his shoulders.
Is Armani Rogers hurt?
Yes, he's on IR, I think.
He is on IR.
Yep.
Well, on the good news side, I'm looking at the 49ers offense at the moment, and I don't recognize any of the names in their receiving core outside of Samuel and Kittle, and Samuel won't be on the field this week.
Well,
Ayuk is no joke.
Yeah. I think he's actually their leading receiver, believe it or not Samuel. Samuel's only catching like 59% of the balls thrown his way. That's
Ayuk's their leading receiver at 774.
Well, Samuel's he's done for the year and then some.
No, apparently yesterday, Kyle Shanahan told the media they felt like they'd get him back on the field this year. Now, that may mean playoffs because they're talking
Right.
about out 3 weeks, which should kill him for the rest of the regular season. But
But we don't have to see
they'll
him
get him
this
back,
weekend.
that they're not putting him on IR. So
So what I wanted to look at was I think that I hope Rivera and Scott Turner are watching the film of the Seahawks offensively, because I think Taylor Heineke can do everything Geno Smith can. Maybe not the arm, but I think he's absolutely as athletic. And I would say that our wide receiving core can match them. I don't know that between Metcalf and Lockett, that's pretty potent, especially with the deep ball. But Terry, Samuel, and Dotson should be able to create some separation. Looking at the stats, and I just had it up. I want to say Geno Smith threw the ball 44 times, 31 completions, and it was about 270. I would kill to have a day like that from Taylor. But if you watch those, a lot of those, they're quick hitters. Obviously, if you're averaging 7 yards a pass or a completion, that's a quick hitting offense.
So their defense, as opposed to their number 1 ranked rushing defense, they're 13th in yards against passing, but they are very good in the red zone. Apparently, they're second in the league in points scored passing wise.
Sorry, it was 31 completions for 238 in a TD. But they moved the ball, and while they still did lose 21-13, and they were down 21-6 at the start of the fourth quarter, I don't see us running rough shot. We're not going to do it. It's just they're going to sell out to stop Robinson and Gibson. So it's going to be Taylor that wins this football game if we find a way to do it. I would be shocked if either one of those guys even sniffs 100 yards.
What were you going to say, Paul? I could see you trying to get a word in edgewise.
No, it's fine. You guys were talking about how it's imperative that Heineke plays amazingly well in this game. In order to support that and in order to help that come to fruition, we really need to ensure that we're not getting ourselves in 2nd and long and 3rd and long situations against a defense like this. That's a recipe for a complete disaster. And I think Bob was alluding to it earlier. In that Giants game, I felt like we were in a lot of 2nd and long situations. We had Curtis Samuel run. I believe he carried it 5 times for a total of 1 yard. And a lot of them were sweeps. And I feel like a lot of them were on first downs after we had, developed some pretty good momentum with some Robinson runs, and drives just seemed to stall at that point. We're in 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, and it's game over at that point. So we really need to complement Heineke with first down success. And first down success might mean getting 3 yards. It might mean getting 4 yards and just living to see another day, living to see another play, and going from there. If Heineke has to shoulder the entire load and make something out of impossible situations, I feel like we're going to have a replica of that game a year ago in Buffalo, way back in week 3, where it turned real ugly real fast, and he's trying to do too much and playing hero and throwing interceptions left and right. We can't have that, because I feel that this can be a game that can get away from us really, really quickly if we get impatient and allow it to become that.
yeah, to I don't know, almost to pile on, Paul. So Logan Thomas's incomplete, hit him in the hands and ended up in the dirt. That was on first down. 2nd and 10, the Giants blitzed and sacked Taylor. Now it's 3rd and 19. Early in the game, it hit Gibson in the hands. This was in the red zone. It hit Gibson in the hands. He didn't have a clear path to the end zone, but it hit him in the hands. He should have caught the ball and he would have had 5 yards. So instead of 2nd and 5, it's 2nd and 10. And we ended up kicking a field goal. because the Giants could then tee it up and come after us. And we can't do that. Nick Bosa's got 15 and a half sacks.
I was gonna say, if you think the Giants are good at brushing the passer, he ain't seen nothing yet.
Now, Bosa's almost the only guy. The next guy on the team's got 4.5 sacks, and the next guy after that's got like 2. But they've got like 12 guys that have a sack this season. You know, and so it starts.
They also have a hell of a good tight end in Kittle, and that scares me because we struggle with that, man. Oh, you know, that we just don't have other than Jamin, we just don't have a lot of strength in the middle. I mean,
No,
I know Curl and Derek Forrester are doing a good job, but we just struggle with big, physical, nasty tight ends. We always have.
And if you take Jamin out of the middle to cover Kittle, then who's going to play the run in the middle? Because, oh, by the way, McCaffrey's not bad.
Yeah.
He's also not bad catching the ball. So
I think, honestly, the key to winning this game is going to find a way to force Purdy into uncomfortable positions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, you have to get home. You have to, like, in the chat, I said it a couple times. I did say it a couple times. He finished the hit. Just because you don't make the sack, finish the hit and do it legally. Because that will wear on a guy, especially a guy that's a 7th round rookie. You know what I mean? A guy that hasn't been tossed around by NFL talent very much. It starts to feel different.
In all honesty, if it's early in the game and things are still pretty even and we're playing in their end of the field, I don't even mind an illegal hit, Derek. Get him. No, and it's not because I want to play dirty, but you know what I'm saying? Guys lay off, guys pull back. And I think that first one's gotta hurt. And
not hurt in an injury hurt.
Right. No, it's gotta hurt up here.
Gotta make his eyes water.
He's got to be thinking about it the next time he lines up. The next time he sees that formation, you want in his head going, shit, last time I got popped and I'm still feeling it. Right. And I don't know whether Del Rio can do this, but I think he's going to have to bring something this week that nobody in the NFL has ever seen before.
So one of the few statistical areas where we're actually better than the 49ers, they have more fumbles than we do this year. So that's just something to think about not just tackling well, but tackling like we've seen in stretches this year where it's just swarming to the ball and, you know, second and third guys slamming into the running back or the receiver after the catch. They're 17th in the league, 16th in the league in fumbles. So they're not terrible, but they have given up the ball quite a bit. So that's an area to possibly that we could use to our advantage.
Turnovers could be the difference this week, John. Great point.
If we can force a couple turnovers, I think that changes
I think
things.
that the game plan, like you guys were talking about, I think that's the most interesting thing. And I honestly have no idea which way they're going to go. Are they going to say we can run on them and we're going to? Is it going to be one of those games where it's like, don't tell us we can't run on anyone. We can run on anyone.
Are you talking about us?
Yes. And we stubbornly pound it 40 times.
Yeah, and then lose.
Whether or not that works out or not, I have no idea. Or are they going to say, as I think we tend to lean, which is we're not going to be able to run on them, so we're going to have to go to the air more. Or the other thing is throw to the running backs. Don't hand it off so much.
Right.
Get it to Sam, get it to all these hybrid guys we have beyond the line of scrimmage, and then let them go. That might be the way to go.
That's fine if you want to do that, but you better not do it out of an empty set 5 wide every damn time you drop back.
No, in fact, I think I would love to see Brian Robinson be second or third on this team in targets this week behind McLaurin. I think that might be one of those things that San Francisco's not expecting. We throw to Robinson once or twice a game. Maybe. And he does a really good job, right? I mean, he broke off a nice one to open up Sunday night, but we tend not to come back to him. We tend to pull him and put Gibson in and throw to Gibson. Well, let's put Robinson in, show run, and throw to him.
Do you guys think that they might potentially give any thought to the idea of going quick tempo this week against San Francisco? I almost feel like to a certain extent, you need to be unpredictable against these guys. Like we're facing a top defense in the league. Throw something different at them that might get them thinking. Do you think there's any possibility of that transpiring? Because Heineke has shown from time to time that he can play relatively well in a quick tempo setting.
I think it's one of his strengths, Paul.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have done it. I don't know what drives them to do it when they do it, but they have done it very effectively. Like even the last couple of games, we've had a couple of drives where they went up tempo.
Go ahead. To answer your question, Paul, I hope they do something. Let me put it that way. Because here's what I can tell you. If we trot the same offense that we've trotted out over the last couple weeks, Kyle Shanahan knows it. I guarantee it. Not because he was here before, but because he's that good. Kyle Shanahan knows.
He's motivated. I don't know if that translates to the team, but he hates Washington. He wants to humiliate us.
Right. And he
might.
is brilliant. He will take what you do bad and he will exploit it. And he will take advantage of it. And he will force you into bad habits because he's that good at what he does. The other thing to think about, like, what's up?
Do you really think after 10 years he still cares?
Yeah, I do. I think he's
Do
still
you? Okay.
I don't. I think his priority is winning this football game and maintaining their position in the, because of the Minnesota miraculous win over the Colts. They're still looking up at the second seed, but I do think that he's got a little chip, even if it's not. Oh, I'm motivating myself. It's when he's sitting down with his dad, having a glass of, having a drink. That conversation comes up and it's how sweet would it be to hang 40 on this team? You know what I mean? And then
it's still Dan Snyder's team, right?
Huh?
It's still Dan Snyder's team.
Right. And then in game, instead of saying, it's 3rd and 6, let's just hand it to McCaffrey and set up a punt, he's gonna say, no, let's hit him with that Kittle screen and see if we can't do some real damage. You know what I mean? I don't know that he's gonna change his whole dynamic about it. I think at the end of the day, he still wants to win just as much, but I think there might be a couple little needles that he pulls in there.
Yeah, I think he's too professional to change his dynamic and try and design a win like that. But if we give him the opportunity, I think he's perfectly willing to twist the knife. Yeah, I that's a fair statement. Yeah.
All right, guys, what do you think happens? I'll lead it off. Normally I go last. I'll lead it off. I'm going to be honest with you. I think we're going to see it's going to, I think it's not going to be very pretty. I think we'll hang for a little while, just because of sheer talent. I think our defense can match up with their offense and Purdy. But I think it ends up being a 2-score game at the end. Also, Christian McCaffrey just got snubbed from the Pro Bowl. So you do wonder if he's going to come into the game a little pissed off, you know what I mean? Like, all right, I'm going to show you bastards. And if Shanahan's going to major in McCaffrey to let him do it, I don't know. But I think we could see something 29-17. San Fran. And I hope I'm wrong.
I actually think the defense does something this week. But I mean, the defense does something every week, right? But I think we see a different defense than we saw this week. They held the Giants to 13 this last week. If we really look at it, this is one of the better defensive units in the league. And they're playing against, as much as he's got a tremendous unit around him, they're still playing against a guy with what, 4 starts under his belt? Maybe not even that. 3 starts? I don't remember. Purdy's only, is it 2 starts? Yeah, I mean, Purdy's really only been in the lineup 3 or 4 weeks.
With a second-year defensive coordinator.
And that just seems like a recipe for Del Rio to feast. Now, do I really think Kyle Shanahan is going to give us that opportunity? He's going to try and limit that as much as possible. He knows exactly what we're going to do. He knows we're going to go after the new kid. I mean, he's a smart guy. So he's going to try and limit the amount of damage we can do to Brock Purdy. And I think in the end, he's probably somewhat successful. But I also think that that means he doesn't actually open the offense up as much as maybe he would against some other defenses. So I'm thinking 24-16 with 3 Joey Sly field goals in there. Because we can only find the end zone once, because that's pretty much our MO these days.
What do you think, Paul?
I think we're going to take a licking this week. I mean, let's face it, our defense has performed admirably this season. You know, and it's a shame that come the end of the year, we might very well have nothing to show for it. Let's face it, with the type of defensive performances that our defense has given us overall this year, that should be good enough to get into the playoffs. But what I fear this coming week is fear that the defense will just be on the field far too often. And I think things can get quite ugly, or have the potential to get quite ugly. The last 2 weeks against New York, that has to be weighing on this team, you know, mentally. Nobody could be feeling good about, you know, playing the Giants and not being able to even muster one victory. So I can see this being a week where we just come out flat and just don't have the juice. Kind of a little bit of a hangover, a little bit of disappointment from previous weeks lingering and carrying over into Saturday's game. Again, I can see it getting really ugly. I'm going to say 30-10.
So it's a must-win game for us. I mean, we have to have this game. In some ways, that gives me hope, because it seems like
We find our way.
our backs were only kind of to the wall against the Giants, but they really are up against the wall. And these guys seem to respond to that. Also, they seem to respond to when people tell them that they have no chance in hell of beating a team, like Philadelphia earlier. But I just can't muster the belief despite saying that. I think Heineke's going to throw up I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure. No one loves to throw up the prayer ball more than Taylor, and he's gotten away with way too many of those this year. And I think this might be the game where he doesn't get away with it, and he gets a couple of those. You know, we go deep, and it gets picked off. I also think there's a decent chance that they knock him out of the game, because he's already said he's taken a lot of hits the last couple of weeks. In fact, he said today that he was pretty beat up, or yesterday he said that he's fairly well beat up right now. And I think he's going to get more beat up with that San Fran defense. So I just have that feeling that this might be a game where he takes a few too many hits and they have to put Wentz out there. So I'm not hoping for that. I'm just saying I think it could happen. So I'm calling it 30-17. And again, I think there are going to be some picks involved that make the difference on the other side of the field.
Question. Do you think St. Juice plays? Do you think Young plays?
Yes to both is my vote.
I think Young, for some reason, doesn't play. I think St. Jude's does.
What was it not already confirmed that St. Just was going to be playing this weekend? It may have been.
It has.
He
Like
said it.
He himself
Just
may have
said it.
said it.
It
Yeah, he
hasn't
said
been
he'll be
confirmed by the
ready.
club, but St.
Yeah.
Juice said he was ready to go.
And when Rivera was asked, Rivera said it's basically that it's trending in that direction.
So here's the question. If Young plays, do you think he makes a difference, or he looks like a passenger?
I have no idea.
I'll be shocked. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he enters any game this season and is effective. Just let me put it, just because he was not effective for 10 games before he got hurt. He hasn't played a football game in 14 months.
If he
I'm
plays,
hopeful.
is
Never know, though.
he going to be, in the event that he does play, is he lining up opposite Trent Williams? Because I feel as though if he is, that's not a favorable matchup after such a long layoff. I hate to say
No,
it, but it's not.
I think if you play Young, you play him at left end and you let Sweat
Yeah.
line up against Trent Williams.
Mhm.
You know, then that's something we really didn't talk about. It's, you know, it's not like Sweat and Williams don't know each other.
Same thing with Allen and Payne.
Well, but Allen and Payne aren't going to be lining up against Trent Williams as a general rule of thumb. Your ends line up against you. They may end up
Yeah.
out there, but it's not going to be an every play kind of thing. Whereas
Right.
Trent Williams could be staring at Montez Sweat across that line
60%
and
of
know
the game. Yeah.
right. And no, Sweat's coming all day long. Doesn't, you know, hey, sadly, I've got to say Sweat's no Thibodeau. I hate that. Oh my gosh. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like having St. Just and Young back might be a little bit of a pick me up for this defense. I don't know. Maybe I'm
We can
grasping at
hope.
straws too, and I'm desperate. I could very well be desperate.
Well, I think St. Just is absolutely a pick me up. I mean, that guy's a different. I mean, he looked like a difference maker the last 3 or 4 games he played before he got hurt. And as far as Young goes, I just don't know. I don't think there's any way to have a educated opinion on that. But I think they're looking. I think it's exactly what you said, Bob. I think they're looking for a spark. And who the hell knows? I wouldn't want to bet $1 million against Chase Young, like having 2 sacks in his first game back. Who knows? Anything can happen.
Yeah. But I mean, we've said multiple times now that this coaching staff's got to have some kind of a surprise. We've got to pull something out of the bag that San Francisco either hasn't seen or isn't expecting in any way, shape, or form. And at the moment, I'm not sure anybody in the league expects Chase Young to suit up again this year. That might be a little bit of a surprise to have 99 show up on the field Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. I don't know. I'm just,
We'll see.
like I said, I'm desperate, man. I'm desperate.
All right, fellas, we were 1 short tonight. Apparently, Mark was too busy. I don't know, getting ready for Christmas or something.
Wrapping
So we'll have to
Christmas presents.
give him a hard time next week. But it's been a pleasure, fellas, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can do something. I'm not saying I'm rooting against them. I'm just not confident either.
I'm staying out of the chat room this weekend, man. I think I ruined it
Are
for
you?
everyone last weekend with my
You
balloon.
were fine, John. You were fine.
I don't know.
Yeah, you were fine.
Pretty much.
Trust me, dude, you'd get a text message from me telling you to lighten up if you weren't. I don't have a problem with that.
All right,
All right,
guys.
boys.
Hey,
Have
have
a
a
good
great
night.
Christmas, my friends.
Yeah, you too,
Or
buddy.
whatever you celebrate.
That's right.